Glass is one of those materials that, like metal, it's important to get right. Right now, my glass is white, as it came in that way from my shader effects. I'm going to go in and clean up my glass and glass clear, as well as my glass reeded. Glass and glass clear can probably get replaced with one or the other materials made to look like clear glass. Occasionally we'll see this. Maybe we were working in two different scenes and had two different materials, which will really end up as the same thing. We can always check by selecting the object and looking under the materials at what element is, well, which one. In this case, it looks like it's using glass, so I'm going to leave it alone. And anytime I find glass clear, I'll replace that with glass simply by dropping down here and choosing the right material. Now I'll double-click on glass to bring it up in the material editor. This is our standard, came in as a light gray because it was a shader effects material. What I'll do first is change around how this basic material works, how that shader actually functions. With the material selected, I'll drop down under blend mode and choose translucent. I'll leave it at the default lit shading model, and then I'll scroll down, and here where it says separate translucency, I'll turn that off. Lastly, I'll take the translucency lighting mode over to surface for glass and water, as the tooltip says. Now it's going to light on the surface of that material, and it's black, doing a good job, well, being black with no properties in there. Now it's time to get some different things in. First, I'll put in some color, pressing and holding 3, clicking in the work area, and hooking this color up to the base. I'm going to put in the tiniest bit of green, taken almost to black, for a little bit of tint there. Then I'll get in some other values. Again, we want to make sure that this stays very, very dark, maybe changing to sRGB if we need, or just making sure it's really, really blacked out. That's better. Now it's this super dark color. What I'll do is get a little bit of metalness on it, pressing and holding 1 and clicking and pulling in a constant for metallic. I'll put this up at 0.2 to say it's not a surface color. Then I'll get some specularity going. This can be very shiny. This can be a specular in here of 1 or even more. I'll put in 2 initially, and now it's a very shiny material. Now what we need to do is to get in some different things for opacity and refraction. What I'll do is to use a lerp, pressing and holding L or typing lerp up here in the category, or at least here's L-E-R, and we start to see our lerps come up. Here's lerp, and I've got my different things available. A lerp multiple, a height lerp, lerp scratches and grime, and so forth. Alternately, we can simply click in the view and press L and create a lerp node. The idea in a lerp, or linear interpolation, is we transition based on an alpha channel between two things. 2 textures, 2 values, 2 colors, anything we want. What I'll do is to put this into the opacity. And I need some other pieces in my lerp. Right now it's not lerping between anybody. I'll add in a Fresnel node here, up in the category by typing FRE, and we start to see them. And I'll pull in from the vector ops, Fresnel. A Fresnel refraction, as where we typically see it, is an edge refraction, where that reflection or refraction travels around the outside edge of the object, always away from our view. I'll take the result here of my Fresnel and put it into the alpha. Now it's going to look at a Fresnel to do this, and we can already see a change here. It's not lerping between anybody, but we definitely see a shading difference here between the middle and the sides of our test sphere. Now I'll get some values in, pressing and holding 1 and clicking in the view, and I get a value, a constant here, which I'll plug into A, and 1 in here for B. We can see in this, if we start changing these values to, let's say 1 for the A, when that recalculates, we get a black middle and a transparent outside. I'll flip this around then, making the outside a value of 1, and the inside node, the A in the lerp, 0. As it recalculates then, we get a nice dark material with a clearer center. This is governing the opacity, and I also need to pull it into the refraction. We can use this lerp, or we can create another one, which allows us some flexibility in how we adjust those values. I'll pull these to the side and make a new lerp for that. What we can do if we'd like is to pick those nodes and copy and paste. We've got this whole chain again where we can plug that lerp into the refraction. Now that that's in there, we'll start to get some pretty good refraction and reflection going. I do need one more constant in here, and I'll add one in for the roughness. I'm going to plug in a roughness of 0 to make sure it's definitely a shiny, smooth surface. This is working well so far. What we'll need to play with then are these values for refraction. How much refraction are we getting? We may end up increasing this to 1.55 for glass on the B node of the lerp going into refraction. And here in the refraction, we'll put it at 1 for the A. What we'll have to do is try this out in the scene. We may also find that this color is too dark, and it's okay to come back and adjust. If you're finding this is getting a little confusing, you can add in a comment. I'll go here in the category and find them. Here's comments, and I'll bring in a new comment node. There's my new comment, and what I can do is to size this under different things. I'll take this comment, for example, and I'll size it to go under that Fresnel and the lerp that's governing the refraction. I'll name here in the comment, or the name of the actual node, refraction. And now that's that group, so I can recognize it nicely. I'll pull this one to the side. The neat one with having a comment is when you pick the comment, anything that's squarely on it goes with it, so we can organize what we're doing. I'll add another new comment in, just pulling it across here, and this one will be for the opacity. I've got two comments going on, so I need to make sure I take this one and pull it down, and I can get it out of the way. Now I've got this comment node, and I'll stretch it out and pull things onto it. It's a very handy way to organize what's going on, and I'll use comments to delineate certain areas of material. Now I'll name this comment opacity. I'll save this and see how this looks and come back and adjust. We can see an immediate change. As I orbit around, holding Alt and the mouse wheel, for example, or Alt and the right mouse to dolly, we can see in here that it's definitely nice and clear. From the outside, when we pass through the building, come back and look around it, it looks pretty good as well. Have to remember to stop hitting the right mouse. Now, this is the trouble, obviously, because I go between different applications. I mess up the hotkeys and mouse keys. It's okay to do that. You know, you'll end up working in a workflow where you do use multiple things. What I'll do is go in and select some discrete pieces here and frame in on them. I'll pick, for example, let's say the walls conference, and press F to frame. And now I can see my glass working very nicely. It's got a little bit of a tone to it, and I can sort of see in. And when I get to the side here, we can really see that refraction working to kick up the reflection. This is what we're after in glass. When we look straight at it, it's really fairly clear. But when we get tangent to that surface, walking up the walkway, there's a reflection going on from that Fresnel governing where that goes. Now, the last thing this needs is more reflection. Right now, it's doing a pretty good job with a generic reflection of the outside sky, but we need localized reflections through the building. I'll take a quick look, though, at that glass reeded and see what I can do with it. Here's my reeded glass. Now, this came in with some textures in it, and I'll get these a little bit more aligned so we can see what's going on. It's got a color with some striations in it, as if it was, well, reeded glass. And also there's a normal map that gives it that bumpy surface. What I'll do is to change that shader over. I'll take the blend mode over to translucent, let it be default lit, turn off separate translucency, and let this one be a surface. It's working quite well, but what I need to do in this case is to give it a little bit of opacity so we can see through, and the same refraction and lerp nodes. The cool thing is I can paste those in. I've already made them once, and so there's the lerp and the Fresnel and those values. So I'll take this across to the opacity first. it's working very nicely, and I'll paste in one more time. In this case, this will wire into that refraction. What we need to do with this is a translucent glass then is take that value in the opacity, instead of being from 0 to 1, for maybe 0.5 to 1, so that we really never see completely through, but it's got a translucence to it, and that reflection will travel across because of the refraction in there. If you'd like to, you can also play with the numbers coming into that refraction. Bring that value up to, here's 1.55 or something greater. And in this case, going between, let's say, 1. We'll start to see a greater difference in that. Now this glass we want to be opaque because it's across the bathroom doors and other places where we need some privacy, like the screening room, where we want the idea of glass, but we don't want to be able to see through. I'll add in my last pieces. Again, some constants in here for metallic, just a little bit. Another constant in here for specular, nice and shiny, but maybe not quite as shiny as the straight glass. Lastly, I'll put in one for roughness, and I'll put in a roughness of 0.1. So the reflection just gets smeared a little bit by that roughness. As always, you can come in and organize this as you wish. I'll apply it and save it and go see what it looks like. I'll hit play. My character controller is in the lobby. What we can see here, aside from the lighting needing to be rebuilt, is that it's working very nicely. I can really see out the windows. What we can also see here, when I go into some of the other spaces, is I've got my reeded glass across those bathrooms. There's also reeded glass on that screen, and so it's working quite well. We definitely get the idea of that reeded glass and can see stuff through, which is sort of swimming. What we probably need to do here is to take down that opacity, to make sure that it's much more opaque, so we really can't see what's going on. But I like how it obscures, well, in this case, the bathroom entries. I'll leave that fine-tuning to another point. I need to get the lighting in first to really be able to judge this, but it's working quite nicely.